reason for anyone from the township to go to a mayor's conference. Mayor's conference is a mayor's conference for mayors.
I'll say, no, he's not employed by us. So you have got Jeff.
If you thought small-town politics were boring, think again. Meet Tiffany Henyard, whose role as mayor feels more like a reality TV show than a public office. With power struggles, extravagant spending, lawsuits, and even corruption accusations, the drama surrounding Henyard is nothing short of an opera. The ongoing clash between Henyard, dubbed the Super Mayor, and the Board of Trustees is full of shocking twists and turns, keeping everyone on edge. Buckle up as we take a deep dive into the controversy that has captured the attention of Dalton, Illinois, with Henyard at the heart of it all. Tiffany Henyard, the embattled mayor of Dalton, a small Chicago suburb with a population of around 200, is once again at the center of controversy, this time over the town's budget. At a recent Board of Trustees meeting, tensions reached a boiling point, as Henyard, known for her bold and often arrogant demeanor, tried to fast-track the budget approval. Entering with characteristic confidence, she insisted that the budget be passed immediately. However, the trustees refused to simply rubber stamp her agenda, demanding a proper review. They insisted on holding a finance meeting, allowing residents to weigh in and thoroughly evaluate the budget before approval. Henyard, however, dismissed this request for transparency, frustrating both trustees and residents, many of whom were concerned about financial mismanagement under her leadership. As the meeting grew heated, the trustees emphasized the need for fiscal accountability, particularly given the town's current financial woes. In response, Henyard argued that delays would only worsen the town's challenges. The meeting soon devolved into a fiery standoff, symbolizing the larger power struggle that has marked Henyard's controversial tenure. Her time in office has been marred by scandals, allegations of misuse of funds, and a growing divide between her administration and the residents she was elected to serve. The increasingly vocal residents expressed frustration with her refusal to allow proper scrutiny of the budget. It became clear that this battle was about much more than the financial details. It was a flashpoint for deeper issues of trust, governance, and Henyard's controversial leadership style. The meeting left the community questioning whether their voices would ever truly be heard under her administration.
That's what the trustees I talked to are calling this. They say the news took them by surprise, and now they're talking to legal counsel to figure out their next.
Mayor Tiffany Henyard strides into the boardroom with her usual boldness, determined to push for immediate approval of Dalton's budget. No further evaluations, no delays. She's firm, assertive, and almost demanding, insisting that it's time to move forward. In her view, she's already met all the trustees' demands, held discussions, made adjustments, and ticked off the required boxes. There's no reason for more back and forth, she declares, leaving little room for negotiation. But the trustees aren't convinced. Confused, frustrated, and likely fed up, they meet her insistence with skepticism. Trustee Tammy Brown, a prime example of this resistance, wears her weariness on her face. Like her fellow trustees, Brown is not prepared to rubber stamp the budget without proper review. She demands transparency, accountability, and above all, wants to ensure the residents of Dalton, who will be most affected by this budget, have the opportunity to voice their concerns. Henyard, however, brushes past these worries, pushing forward with a singular focus that allows no room for debate. The tension in the room is thick, as her demands clash with the trustees' resistance. They insist on a proper process, including a public finance meeting, where residents can scrutinize the budget and ask questions. Henyard, however, is resolute. Patience has never been her strong suit. She dismisses any notion of delay, firmly stating that Dalton cannot afford to wait, and that transparency is just a hurdle to progress. Her defiance leaves many in the room incredulous, especially the trustees, whose job is to uphold public trust. For Brown and others, this is a breaking point. It's not just about the budget anymore, but about principles, governance, and the growing sense that Henyard is more interested in dictating terms than fostering collaborative leadership. With Dalton already grappling with financial struggles and allegations of mismanagement under Henyard's administration, the demand for accountability has never been stronger. For many residents, this budget represents more than just a policy document. It's a test of whether their voices will be heard and their concerns addressed. Yet Henyard's refusal to engage in a more inclusive, transparent process only fuels suspicion and discontent. To many, her insistence on urgency feels less like decisive leadership and more like an attempt to avoid scrutiny. The meeting devolves into a symbolic showdown, a microcosm of the larger tensions that define Henyard's leadership style. And as the trustees push back and Henyard pushes harder, it becomes clear that this isn't just about numbers or spreadsheets. It's about trust, governance, and whether Dalton can move forward under a mayor whose approach seems to prioritize expedience over accountability. At its core, this is a clash of ideologies. Henyard's strong-arm tactics versus the trustees' demand for a democratic, transparent process. As the night wears on, the tension grows heavier with every exchange. For both the residents and the trustees, the stakes couldn't be higher. This isn't just about passing a budget. It's about the future of Dalton and whether its leadership will stand for the values the community expects and deserves. Whether Henyard's uncompromising stance will prevail or whether the trustees' call for transparency will win out remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. This is more than a budget battle. It's a referendum on Henyard's tenure, one that will have lasting consequences for the entire town.
We knew it was going to be a little messy, but it's just something we felt important that had to be done, that should be done. So, but like I said, yeah, some kind
The drama unfolds when Mayor Tiffany Henyard pushes the trustees to approve Dalton's budget without delay, her trademark bravado taking center stage as she demands minimal scrutiny. However, the trustees, far from rolling over, begin to push back, exposing the flaws in Henyard's leadership approach. Trustee Jason House is among the first to voice skepticism, questioning why no proper finance meeting has been held. A crucial step in the process. His pointed inquiry shines a light on Henyard's failure to follow due process, setting the tone for a contentious evening. Trustee Brittany Norwood, never one to mince words, bluntly calls Henyard out, accusing her of lacking transparency and failing to engage with both the board and the residents. How about you be a good leader and bring proposals to the forefront so not just us, but residents and everyone else in America know how the money is being spent. True to form, Henyard doesn't back down. Instead, she doubles down, escalating the tension as she tries to reassert control over the meeting. At one point, she delivers a dramatic lecture, saying, "You all forget I'm the leader. They want to hear from the mayor. You all ain't learned that yet." Her tone dripping with condescension as she reminds the trustees who's in charge. What could have been an opportunity for collaboration quickly morphs into a power struggle, as Henyard shifts her focus from passing the budget to asserting her dominance over the board. Meanwhile, the trustees, clearly growing more exasperated, stand their ground. This isn't just about numbers or funding priorities anymore. It's a battle over principles of governance, transparency, and accountability. The deeper issue is Henyard's leadership style, which prioritizes control and expedience over unity and dialogue, and it's beginning to wear thin. Her unwillingness to address the trustees' concerns or engage in a proper review process signals a troubling disregard for the checks and balances meant to protect the public interest. As the meeting drags on, frustration builds. For the trustees, the issue isn't just Henyard's heavy-handed tactics, but her broader pattern of sidelining key democratic processes to push through her agenda. Norwood's insistence on accountability resonates deeply, emphasizing that residents deserve clarity on how their money is being spent and a say in the decisions that directly impact their lives. Adding fuel to the fire is Henyard's dual role as both mayor of Dalton and supervisor of Thornton Township, which feeds into the broader narrative of her perceived overreach and inability to juggle competing responsibilities. This duality raises questions about whether her focus on consolidating power has come at the expense of Dalton's governance. Her push to bulldoze the budget through without further review mirrors the larger concerns about her administration's lack of transparency and disregard for collaborative leadership. What could have been a constructive debate devolves into a stark confrontation, a microcosm of the power dynamics at play in Dalton. Henyard continues to argue that delays are unnecessary and it's time to move forward, but her approach fails to sway the trustees, who dig in deeper, refusing to approve the budget without thorough scrutiny. This isn't just a battle over numbers, it's about setting a precedent for how leadership should operate in Dalton. The trustees make it clear they won't let Henyard's impatience or authoritarian streak override the need for due process. For the residents of Dalton, the stakes couldn't be higher. The budget isn't just an abstract financial document. It represents how their taxes will be used, how their community will be governed, and how their elected officials will prioritize the issues that matter most to them. Many residents share the trustees' concerns, unwilling to support a mayor who seems to prioritize her own agenda over transparency and inclusion. This tension highlights the growing divide between Henyard's administration and the people she claims to serve. As the meeting spirals, it becomes clear that Henyard's strategy of pushing the budget through without addressing valid concerns is backfiring. Her resistance to compromise only strengthens the trustees' resolve, reinforcing their stance that the budget requires proper evaluation and public input. In a community already struggling with financial challenges and a history of mistrust in local governance, this battle is about more than just approving a budget. It's about Dalton's future direction. The more Henyard digs in, the more the trustees seem determined to ensure the budget gets the scrutiny it deserves. What began as a simple procedural meeting has turned into a defining moment for the town, with the community watching closely to see whether its leaders will prioritize transparency, inclusivity, and accountability, or allow a single leader to dictate the terms of governance. The tension in the room reflects broader concerns about Dalton's future. For the trustees, the outcome of this meeting will test whether Dalton can move forward under Henyard's leadership, or if a shift in direction is needed. One that respects democracy, checks and balances, and the will of the people. The stakes are high, and both residents and trustees are looking for leadership that values transparency and collaboration over unchecked power. This is about more than just a budget. It's about the integrity of the governance that will shape Dalton's future.
A one-day purchase of over $40,000 to Amazon. And the main thing is,
during a heated budget meeting, Trustee Tammy Brown proposed a reasonable and transparent course of action, a comprehensive review by the residents and the Finance Committee before approving the proposed budget. Her appeal, rooted in fiscal responsibility, seemed like a prudent step to ensure accountability. However, Mayor Tiffany Henyard rejected the idea outright, adamant about bypassing these additional layers of scrutiny to fast-track the budget's approval. This stance not only amplified existing tensions, but also marked another contentious chapter in Henyard's polarizing leadership saga. In the weeks following the meeting, Dalton's governance continued to unravel as friction between Henyard and the trustees deepened. What began as procedural disagreements spiraled into broader discontent over her leadership style, characterized by unilateral decision-making and a persistent disregard for transparency. Trustees grew increasingly frustrated with Henyard's refusal to compromise, a pattern that placed her at odds not just with the board but also with the residents she was elected to serve. Allegations of misconduct began to surface, including claims of forged checks and withheld financial records, escalating the crisis and painting a troubling picture of fiscal impropriety. Among the most damning issues were reports of Henyard's extravagant spending. Lavish expenditures on luxury travel, high-end accommodations, and other questionable financial choices became emblematic of what many viewed as a complete disregard for fiscal responsibility. With Dalton already grappling with a $7 million deficit, these revelations fueled outrage among both the trustees and the community. Residents and board members alike questioned how such financial recklessness could persist in a village facing significant economic challenges. Trustee Brown's initial suggestion to involve residents in the finance process, once seen as a measure to promote trust, now appeared critical for regaining control over Dalton's fiscal management and holding the mayor accountable. As lawsuits against Henyard mounted, so did the tension at board meetings, which devolved into battlegrounds for power and principle rather than forums for productive governance. The budget debate became a symbolic flashpoint, representing not only Dalton's fiscal health, but also a broader struggle over leadership and accountability. Henyard's dismissive attitude toward calls for reform deepened the rift between her administration, the trustees, and the community. Public trust eroded with each new report of misconduct, while residents' concerns extended far beyond financial documents. They were about trust, responsible governance, and the assurance that public resources were being used ethically. Despite efforts by the trustees to introduce oversight and ensure community involvement in decision-making, the divide between the mayor and the board only widened. Henyard's refusal to embrace transparency and collaborative governance fueled perceptions of arrogance and further alienated her from the public. For residents, the stakes felt personal, as the very integrity of their town's governance seemed to hang in the balance. What began as a straightforward request for financial accountability had evolved into a full-scale battle for Dalton's future, a fight over its principles of trust, governance, and integrity. With the community's faith in its leadership rapidly deteriorating, the village stood at a crossroads, its future uncertain under the weight of Henyard's embattled administration.
That is my heart that you are up here at this special meeting and not downstairs where we have big.
A recent report has unveiled troubling allegations regarding Dalton, Illinois Mayor Tiffany Henyard's use of taxpayer money for extravagant expenses, raising serious concerns about fiscal mismanagement and ethical conduct. The report reveals that Henyard and her team spent over $67,000 on trips to cities including Portland, Austin, Atlanta, and New York City. During these trips, the team stayed at luxury accommodations, such as the Four Seasons Hotel in Atlanta, where their bill exceeded $99,000, and the Marriott Marquis in Times Square, New York, where costs surpassed $113,000. Beyond these trips, Henyard is alleged to have used public funds for first-class flights, expensive meals, and billboards promoting her image around Dalton. One of the most contentious issues involves Henyard's use of taxpayer money to fund personal security. Reports suggest that she employed village police officers as bodyguards, assigning them duties that included shopping with her and picking up her daughter from school. The overtime pay for these officers has exceeded $1 million, funds that critics argue could have been better spent addressing public safety needs. Compounding the controversy are claims that Henyard has made personal purchases using village credit cards at retailers like Amazon, Target, and Walgreens. One particularly egregious purchase reportedly amounted to $443,000 on Amazon in a single year. These allegations have drawn the attention of the FBI, which has launched an investigation into Henyard's financial activities. Henyard's leadership has also been marked by high profitability disputes and legal battles. In an effort to gain more market share. In a move that shocked many, she fired Dalton's police chief, Robert Collins, without the approval of the village board, prompting Collins to file a lawsuit against the village. Local business owners have also accused Henyard of using her position for retaliation. Lawrence Gardner, a Dalton trucking company owner, claims she shut down his business after he refused to donate $3,500 to her political campaign. Such actions have led critics to liken her leadership style to that of a mob boss, even drawing comparisons to fictional figures like Nino Brown from New Jack City for her authoritarian tactics. Despite mounting lawsuits, FBI investigations, and vocal criticism from both residents and the Board of Trustees, Henyard has remained defiant, dismissing allegations and continuing to assert her authority. During a public meeting, she accused her opponents of targeting her because she is a Black woman in power, a claim that left many attendees stunned and further polarized opinions about her leadership. However, this defense has done little to quell frustrations among trustees and residents, many of whom view her spending habits and governance style as emblematic of deeper systemic issues in Dalton. The community's patience is wearing thin as Dalton grapples with a $7 million deficit, and residents question whether their leadership can deliver transparency and fiscal responsibility. Public discontent has grown, with some residents joking darkly that Henyard's alleged misconduct may ultimately lead to legal consequences. The village board has remained steadfast in opposing her, pushing for accountability amid the growing turmoil as investigations continue and lawsuits progress. The future of Dalton's leadership hangs in the balance. Will Henyard weather the storm and retain her position, or will the mounting legal and ethical challenges bring her tenure to an end? For the residents of Dalton, this moment represents more than just a political scandal. It is a critical juncture that will determine the village's path forward. The unfolding saga promises more contentious battles ahead, as all eyes remain on Henyard and the outcome of the crises surrounding her administration.